Hopefully y'all can hear me today. Good afternoon. Nice. Okay, guys. I am a minute late to get today, but I'm here. Sorry about that. I was working on some client work. We're going to start off today with some feet work and kind of work our way into our hips. This is going to be a pre-run, also pre-hike would do really well with this as well. Mobility. So it's something that's going to get your ankles, hips, full body nice and warm, and also prep the muscles you're going to need if you're going to go run a lot or walk a lot, so you can stay moving well and injury-free. All right, so hopefully this one will be nice and short with you me today. Yesterday I filmed it and it was like 17 minutes, so should be something that you can do fairly quickly before your run and save for later. All right, if you're starting with me today, the only thing that you're going to need is a mat or bare feet preferably, or really light shoes. I'm gonna be barefoot for this one. And then also a chair, which I need to secure really quick. And that's it. All right, awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the feet today. We start with the feet because we need a strong foundation to be able to do everything else mobility-wise. And if we're running, we're gonna be using them a lot. So we're just gonna start by rolling on to one side of the feet here and then the other. That's why it's really helpful to be barefoot, or at least maybe just have some socks on or some light shoes. I personally have been running in barefoot shoes, but I've been doing that for a couple years now. And let me tell you, when I first got into running with barefoot shoes, it was kicking my butt. Now it's just finally getting easier, but I won't tell you I'm a very fast runner, but it finally feels more normal to use my feet to push off of instead of relying on my heels striking the ground, which, you know, a lot of us get really used to with the shoes with really thick heels. All right, so hopefully you've got around 10 to 15 of those. Now we're gonna raise onto the toes and lower. If you need to hold on to a wall or a chair, that would work really well here. And let's get around 10 to 15 of those. I started off with the ankles and the feet in my training because that's one of the reasons why I got into mobility training. My ankle mobility was severely limiting me and often super freaking painful, even if I wasn't moving. So yeah, if you have a hard time getting into a squat, or maybe you're noticing some random like knee pain like I was, all of it was coming from my ankles and my feet. So it's really great that we start at the basics sometimes. All right, so once you've got around 15 of those, this is where I would grab the chair if you can. For most of us, we need a little bit of balance support with these. So you're gonna lift the feet off the ground now, leave the heels, and do around 15 of those. Lifting the feet, this is strengthening that tibialis anterior muscle, the shin splint muscle that runs right in front of the shin. Obviously, if you've had a shin splints, you know what this can feel like if this is not working correctly, it's not very strong, it can be very painful. So I like to add in these. Also, it's really good for balance. You can try with no hands. Awesome. I'd say get around 15 of these. Okay, cool. Next one. So this is where we're gonna grab our chair. I would say start off with a stool that's relatively less than waist high, because the higher the chair is, the harder these next two movements are going to be. So start with something lower. It doesn't even matter if it's just like a kitchen chair that's really low. It's a great place to begin and get a little bit more comfortable with these movements. Okay, so I'm gonna bring my foot to the chair here. I'm starting with my left foot if that matters. And then my back toes are in line, so everything is facing in a straight line here. So I'm gonna start by leaning forward bringing this knee over the toe here. You can lift this heel, this front foot, in order to get full range. And let's do around 10 of those. You can rock. I'm rocking on my toes, getting more weight into this front foot as I do so. The closer the leg is to the chair, the more secure in your balance you're going to feel. So if you're a little wobbly, you can hold on to the chair, but also walk that back foot in. Nice. So this is version 1. Version 2, maybe you're finding this chair stretch a little bit easy. You can do the same thing in a standing position. So we're going to be finding a standing split squat here. So good. Tuck the hips forward so we can lengthen through this back hip flexor, and then we're going to be lowering into this same kind of stretch here, thinking about bringing that heel off the ground so I can get full range of motion of bringing the calf and the hamstring really close together here. All right, so once you've got around 10 to 15 of those, go ahead and switch sides. I'm gonna start on the chair here. I typically, even with my own practice, start on the chair because my ankles can be quite tight, especially in this back part. Oh, y'all can't see me very well. And I like to slowly warm up, right? Not throw myself into the hardest version of this right off the get-go when I'm not warm. Not very kind to my body. Especially with all the ankle injuries I've had in my life, I've just found it is a way nicer to ease into things. Awesome, guys. All right, so then you have that other option if you want to try it out. This time, wait, what foot was that? Was my right foot? Okay. Yeah, right foot. I think I had left foot last time. And we're going to be in this nice split squat. Think about tucking that back hip under so you can lengthen out through this back hip flexor. And then you're going to be leaning forward, bringing the calf and the hamstring together. Important to note, this knee should not be on the ground. It should stay nice and high, like I am not so greatly demonstrating here. Nice. These are definitely still pretty challenging for me. Okay, so now we've got around 10 to 15. My heart rate is starting to increase here, which we want because we're about to go run. So I'm going to keep the feet where we are. Let's do something for the upper body. Even though we don't use it, I like to throw something in for that as well. So you're going to lift that left hand up towards the sky. The right foot is going to come inside. Think about keeping a nice push into your feet here to keep the core and glutes engaged, both of those. And then we're going to be looking up to the left hand, bending into the knees, bringing that right arm on the inside of that right leg, maybe even touching the floor, and then swiveling that hand up, keeping the gaze up towards that top hand here as we stretch into the QL. Also get some nice rotation into the shoulder. Do around 10 on each side. I'm going to go ahead and switch sides here. You can bend the knees as much as you like. You should be feeling, I shouldn't say should, but you can be feeling this nice stretch in our QL, which is like the muscle that is quite near our spine, supports our spine, making it very tight. Nice. So I do around 10 on each side. Notice how I'm still looking at my hand at the top of the rep, watching it swivel, and then go ahead and release. So we have done quite a bit of stuff for our hips now and our lower body. So the next thing, I like to stretch out my hip flexors. My hip flexors are quite tight, as most of us are, as we sit in this nice crunched position. We keep our hip flexors crazy crunched. So we need to release them a little bit. So you're going to start off in a nice lunge position. We're not going to be going into the split squat. So toes are in line here. We think about bending into that front knee. If it's hard to balance, you can bend that back knee underneath the body a little bit to make this a little bit more accessible. But either position that you're in, I want you to think about tucking your hips forward. And anytime I cue that, you can kind of find, so this is really excessive anteriorly. This is really excessive posteriorly. And we want to find a spot where our hips are right in the middle in neutral. So if you ever need to check yourself, put your hands on your hips. And that's a really easy tool to do that for yourself. All right, so we're in this nice position here, and we're gonna tuck those hips forward so we start to feel this length into this back hip flexor. And you can stay here holding this for around 10 breaths, or if you want a little bit more firiness to get you ready for your run, when you're ready for it, you're gonna lower the back knee and come up. Doesn't have to touch the ground here. Find a range that is nice and comfortable for your body. And do around 10 on each side. Nice. I'm gonna go ahead and switch sides because I don't want to do all these movements today, as I have my own workout to get to. But toes are facing the same direction. We're gonna think about tucking those hips posteriorly, or just so they're in a nice neutral position for us here. And we can stay hanging out in this movement, breathing. And then we can begin to lower the back knee, if you would like, getting a little bit more of a stretch into that hip as we do so. Let's do around 10 on each side. Awesome. Go ahead and release when you're done with those. Grab some air. I know my heart rate is starting to get up here, so that's perfect. That's what we want. If we're about to go run, I don't want to have to be warming up on my first mile. It's not really the best, right? It's just kind of annoying when you're like have to warm up then, which I have done lots of times. All right, so we're gonna stay into this nice wide-legged stance here. Toes are gonna turn slightly out. They can also face straight ahead if that feels better in your body. But for most people, might feel nice to have those toes out. So we've been practicing the hip thing. I've been talking a lot about the hip tuck here. So make sure we tuck those hips forward. And then we're gonna come into this goddess squat. You can bring your hands to your chest, keep driving those hips forward. And you can bring the hands to the knees, maybe twist one direction, then the other direction, releasing into the back. Breathing here. This is really good for the inner thighs. And then pressing up into the feet. So I'd say you can do around 10 lowers and lifts here, or you can hang out in your bottom position of that goddess squat. So we've worked on inner thigh, we've worked on the hamstrings quite a bit with all of these lunging, the hips, the ankles, and even a little bit in the upper body for the windmills. So you are good to go to get started on your run. Let's see, that was like 10 minutes, so this is perfect. So yeah, if you're about to do any kind of activity where you're on your feet a lot, running, jogging, walking, hiking, this would be a great little video to do right before. You notice how my heart rate is getting up and you would be ready to go. And the muscles that you want to work well are primed and ready for you. The only thing that else I would throw in, especially if you're working on core control, pelvic control, all of that kind of jazz, I would throw in a nice core movement of your choice. You can do some cat-cow, where we're thinking about actively drawing the belly in on the cat, or maybe even something a little bit more stationary, where you flex the back leg, keep this lower back nice and flat, and join the opposite hand. So that could be something you added as well here. Also bring them in and underneath the body. Once again, keeping this back nice and flat, flexing those toes towards the ground. But besides that, I would do around 10 of whatever core movement you want to do if that's something that you're working on right now. And then I'd say you're good to go. We don't want to fatigue anything, we just want to touch everything lightly. And if you wanted to do a little bit more mobility, you can always do that after your run for your cool down. All right, guys, be sure to save this one for later. It's nice and short and sweet. And for more information on what movements that I would recommend for your particular body, shoot me a DM, leave me a comment. I would love to answer any of your questions and help out in any way that I can. All right, guys, have a lovely day. I'm Jo, if I forgot to introduce myself. Bye, guys.